Talking with the District 31 candidate, Mike Canon, for the Senate seat here in the state of Texas. Welcome to Borger.
Well, thank you, George. I appreciate that. It's good to be here. And the weather's good today, too.
Very good today for once. But let's talk about your candidacy. You have announced to run against the incumbent, Kel Sulliger. Let's talk about who Mike Canon is.
Well, Mike Canon is 67 years old. He's from Midland, Texas. He educated out of the Midland schools, went to Texas Tech, got a bachelor's in economics, got a master's in economics, spent 2 years in the armed forces in the military, serving as a second lieutenant and a first lieutenant. Came back out, went to law school at the University of Texas, got my law degree, and I practiced law for 38 years. I was city councilman in Midland, Texas, from 2000 2001, and I was mayor of Midland from 2001 to 2008.
So much in the sense, Kel Sulliger, mayor of Amarillo, so you both are coming out of the same roots.
That's right. Yeah, we do have that background in common. We do.
Let's talk about your platform, some of the things you want to do as our state senator.
Well, as I said, George, I've been an attorney for 38 years. I have represented people for 38 years. That's what I do. I represent people. I represent people in all kinds of situations. I'm primarily a business lawyer. I do work for oil companies. I do work for landowners. I do work for people that have property rights, interests that need to be protected. I have a bank that I represent. I represent people's business interests. I see this job as being similar to that in the sense that I would be representing people the same way that I represent people in my law practice. You work for them, you try to figure out what the issues are, you try to go to bat for them, you try to make sure that they get the best deal they can, you negotiate for them, and you fight if you have to. Same thing I'd be doing down in Austin. I have a conservative nature. I mean, that is my philosophical beliefs are conservative, and I think it's important that we go to Austin with conservative representation down there, people that are willing to advocate for the conservative interests in this district. And I think this is probably the most conservative district in the state of Texas. It needs to be represented by somebody that is conservative to the core, which is what I am.
Well, let's talk about a few of the hot issues that are going to rise up again. Of course, water out here in West Texas is extremely important.
Yeah, water is a big deal, and I mean it's our lifeblood. It's the thing that we all have to survive, and of course it's important out here up here in the north part of the district for agriculture and wheat and corn and cotton. It's, of course, important for our cities and our towns. Same thing down in West Texas, and we've got some cotton and ranching down there, too. So in that sense, all of our district relies on water. We've got different situations, but water is key, and it's very, very important. My big deal on water is that local control is absolutely essential. We do not need a centralized state agency telling us how to operate, how to use our water, how much water to use, how much metering we have to do with it, and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of things that the local water boards and the local water districts ought to be working on, and not the state.
And of course, we got to talk a little bit about education as well. Always a hot issue out of Austin.
Yeah, education is extremely important. I mean, we spend roughly a third of our state budget on education, and our children are our greatest resource. You said you have some grandchildren. I got some grandchildren. I know you want yours to be educated well. I want mine to be educated well. I want our public schools to be the best they can be. I want them to be the best in the country. Right now, they're probably not. As a matter of fact, I think there's a good argument that they are not. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think we made some progress this last session, but there's still a whole lot of work that needs to be done. I think the most important thing in education, again, is going back to local control. I think we need to have overall parameters that the school districts need to operate under. But beyond that, the school districts need to have the ability to be able to make their own decisions. And they need to make sure that as part of that decision-making process, they appropriately compensate our teachers so that we have the right kind of money going into the classrooms to get the best quality education for those kids, because the kids need to be incentivized, the teachers need to be incentivized, and we need to do what we have to do to make sure that happens.
And got to talk about transportation, always an issue up here with the oil and gas. You're down there in the hot area. You know what I'm talking about when you're going over those roads.
Yeah. You must have read my issues column, my issues book. You read my playbook, George. You're right. Transportation is extremely important. Of course, one of the problems that we got there is that we're sending a lot more money. Our district's sending a lot more money to the state than we're getting back. And we're not being treated very well, and so we need to be fighting really hard to get more money for this district. And so that's, I would say, first and foremost. I think also the Texas Department of Transportation needs to be challenged to make sure that they are appropriately using their money and putting it in the right places. Because if they're not using it efficiently, then it's being wasted. And we need to make sure that they're doing what they can to put as much blacktop down on the ground as possible and make sure it's good blacktop and it's properly maintained.
And we got to talk about energy out here.
Yeah, well, energy is big. I mean, one of the things that I think has been a big issue the last couple of sessions is the state of the Railroad Commission. Well, I think the Railroad Commission works pretty well. It is a state agency, and it's probably different in the sense that I don't see it as being the same as the water situation. But the Railroad Commission has been there for a long, long time. The oil companies understand how the Railroad Commission works. I've been before the Railroad Commission a number of times, and so I know how it works. I understand the rules, and the rules make sense. And the companies, I think, for the most part, think they make sense. And so I think we need to do what we can do to try to continue to make sure that we have a well-greased, pardon the pun, but a well-greased system that where our companies have, they know that they can count on a certain degree of certainty in terms of what they're going to have to do in order to be able to drill their wells, and they need to make sure that the landowners and the mineral owners are properly, their interests are properly taken into consideration, and that the neighboring interests have to be taken into consideration properly too. But I think energy to some extent is going to drive itself simply because there is a relative shortage in the world of what we have out here, and so we need to take advantage of that and yet not overuse it at the same time.
All right, any other planks in your platform that maybe I haven't asked?
Well, you hit most of the high points. I would say the thing that is probably kind of underlies all of that is the importance of cost-effective and efficient government. We do have a sunset process down there, and we hear about it, but we never hear about anything being sunsetted. I think maybe an agency or two have been sunsetted, but I really think that we need to do what we can to make sure that our government is, in fact, operating as efficiently as possible. And I think when I was mayor, that's what we did in Midland. And we made sure that we were stretching the dollars as far as we could. And we challenged our different divisions to do that. And we got a lot of good results. I think the same thing needs to be done down at the state level. And I think at the same time, we need to make sure that the state understands and that the system is set up in a way such that the dollars, as much as possible, flow to the local areas to allow the local communities and the local governments to do the things that they do better, and that is running the day-to-day lives of people. And to me, the state government should only be kind of the default government, just like the federal government should even be the super default government. I mean, only in the sense that whenever we have to have the centralized government do that particular function, should the central government even be involved. Most government should be done at the local level.
All right, any final notes?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, George. We are really excited about going out into the district and meeting people. We've met lots of wonderful people. We've met good people here in Borger today. We're going to be meeting with more people. We just appreciate the opportunity to get out. I believe that I am the true conservative candidate. I'm asking for everyone's vote. I think that I know that I won't do you wrong when I go down there. I'll do you right. My door will always be open. I've got a good ear. I'm a good listener, and I'll do what I can to represent the people of this district in a way that they deserve. Thank you.
All right, Mike Canon, District 31 candidate for Texas Senate seat. Thank you.